I was on a panel late, like a late Saturday night, and it was a long time ago. And I had this woman who was on a panel. It was ran by a guy. He was kind of weird, kind of a spaced out guy. I think he was high. I don't know. I think they were high. I think they were smoking weed. And you know me, most of my broadcasts and things are geared towards people on the night shift. That's why I always say shout out to the night shift. But I was talking with them, and this lady asked me, she said, "Hey, Alpha Man, I got to be honest with you. What advice would you give to a woman who's over the age of 27?" I think she was 29 at the time. I'm not sure. I think she was like 28 or 29. And she didn't look too bad for her age. And I just told her the truth. I said, "Do you really want me to give you that?" And she was like, "Yes, I want you to just give me the answer." Because she sounded like she was very frustrated. A lot of women nowadays are very frustrated with the advice industry. They're getting a lot of bad information out there. And I'm not going to lie, women, I do give y'all some sympathy for that. There's a lot of bad information out there that women are getting. Most of it's coming from the people who supposedly want to be helping women, such as feminists. They are giving rotten advice nowadays. Then you got a lot of simp men giving women rotten advice. So, she just say, "Alpha, you a Leo." Because I had told her I'm a Leo. She say Leos are known for being direct, brutally direct. Y'all known for just telling it like it is, even if people don't like it. Can you just tell me like it is? Just be honest with me. And I told her, I said, "Look, I'm gonna keep it real with you. You Gen Z." She was either Gen Z or she was a younger millennial. I couldn't really tell. I said, "I'm gonna be honest with you." I said, "What you're going through now is not uncommon, and what you're going through now is going to be setting the stage for the future." And she was like, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "You're running into a situation where literally it's evolution. All right, evolution can be physical and it can be behavioral. There's a lot of evolutionary things that animals do to survive that are behavioral. There's a lot of evolutionary things animals acquire through physical selection that help them survive. Like there's a lemur, I think it's a lemur or some kind of monkey or something, has a very long finger. That finger allows it to stick its finger in a tree or in an anthole and pull out termites. So it evolved a physical adaptation. You understand what I'm saying? Now, a behavioral adaptation will be lions. If you look at lions, they are one of the only big, large predators that live in a very highly social network. The male lion leads the pride, you see, and the women work together. They all work together, investing in bringing up the children. They have evolved a behavioral of living in a pride so that they can survive. And she was like, "Okay, that makes a lot of sense." I said, "Yeah, it's always to increase fitness. That's what survival of the fittest means. It's not being the biggest, strongest person or being the slickest talking person." It's whatever that nature says you need to survive. And she was like, "Okay, I get it." I said, "So what you're dealing with right now is an evolutionary shift in human behavior." And she was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "The men right now, they are evolving a new behavioral in order to survive." And she was like, "Okay, I see where you're going." I said, "The difficulties that you're having is that the men are evolving a new behavioral strategy. And it's basically no legal binding. See, they want to co parent with you. That means they can reproduce, but they don't want to marry you. So that's called never married. And they don't want to cohabitate with you. Why? Because they don't want to be subject to common law and palimony laws." And I told her, this is the future of the West. Yes, co parenting, never married, no cohabitation is the future in the West. And she said, "Wow, I never heard no one say that." I say, "No, you're not going to hear that because they're all going to try to tell you to do 19th century stuff that was based on what? Regulated dating and mating. And that's the key. That is the key to this entire conversation. And she was like, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Before the sexual revolution, before my time on this planet and yours, there was regulated dating and mating. There was rules and regulations. So a lot of the advice that people give you in the dating and mating sector is based on 19th century system. We're not under a 19th century system anymore. We don't have that. There are no rules and regulations. So when you have it in the wild, which is technically what we are, yeah, we live in high skyscrapers and, we drive cars and electricity. We're not in the caves or on the plains of Africa, because that's where everybody came from, even white people. Right? We are technically still dating and mating as if we are in the wild because there's no rules and regulations. And she was like, I get it. This makes a lot of sense. I say, see, we evolved to put rules and regulation in. That was our evolution. We evolved to say, okay, we're going to regulate dating and mating sexual behavior so that we don't have all this crazy shit. Like the crazy shit you're living through right now. And she was like, yeah, you're right about that. I said, it's not going to stop. I said, so, but one of the things you need to understand is that whenever nature is just allowed to free flow with nothing stopping it, no intervention, evolution will occur. That's what Darwin theorized about. Whether that be something that makes you look favorable or something behavioral. Right now, the evolution that's occurring is that the men are developing a new behavior in dating and mating. It's just that simple. And I told her, I said, look at what's happening to the women in terms of physical evolution. Is it evolution for them to become obese? Because we got a lot of women in America. The largest women in the world are in America. They are obese. A lot of them are morbidly obese. Is that evolution? She said, well, that ain't good. I say, that's it. Exactly. That's not good. Because that's not evolution. That's devolution. So if you look at it, the women are physically going backwards. Because it's not evolutionary for human beings to be morbidly obese. But the women are choosing to do it. They are actively, freely choosing to become obese. They can do everything about it to not be obese. They can eat better. They can work out. We got gym memberships. We got parks. We got sidewalks. We got home gyms, home exercise bikes, all kinds of stuff. We got what's that stuff? Nordic Track. We got people who will go with you online and work out with you literally in real time on Skype. But yet the women choose to become morbidly obese. They are choosing to do that. And now someone's going to try to discredit what I said by saying, well, some people got medical problems. Yeah, most of the medical problems because they became obese. The very small few people who have what's called glandular problems, their thyroid glands is out of control. That's a very small percentage. Most of the people that are obese now is out of poor behavior, poor choices, poor lifestyle. So I told her, look at the paradox that's going on. You have the women devolving physically, that is physically, and you have the men evolving physically. The men are still willing to reproduce with women. Some women, not all, but some women. But they only want to do it as co-parents. And a lot of people are very upset over that. A lot of the people who are pushing 19th century advice are very upset that the men are saying, I will reproduce with you. I will have a family with you, but I'm not going to marry you and I'm not cohabitating with you. Why? Because the judicial system that was built on the 19th century in terms of parenting, common property, common law, marriage law, they don't work for our current society. Why? Because we don't have rules and regulations. We don't have that. And if you put yourself in that situation, you're gonna get a bad deal. You are ask Mary J. Blige. Look up her situation. Look up Halle Berry, her situation. Those are two women. They got a rotten deal, but they are subject to 19th century laws because they did what? Some 19th century shit. So I told her to wrap this story up. I told her, I said, the best thing you can do is try to fit what the men are trying to do. The men right now, this is the standard, by the way. Co-parenting is the standard in America. People are being forced to be co-parents. Why? Because they got bad marriage and they got divorce. You understand what I'm saying? The people that I've learned, and you can study this on your own, the people I've learned that got more of a positive, optimistic, upbeat on life, it appears right now we don't have long term outcomes, but it does appear that the children who were never married, parents that were never married, right? They seem to be having a better outlook and more positive on life versus the children who got divorced. A good clear indicator of that is Generation X. Generation X is technically the divorce generation. They seen all the divorces of who? The boomers. They seen them and they went through them. They were the divorce generation of kids, latchkey kids. So it's a lot more that I can bring on this, but I told her, I said, if you are 27 and older and you are a woman, you need to start looking for the behavior that the men are displaying if you want to have a family. And that would be look to be a co parent, don't focus on getting married, and don't focus on cohabitating. You have your house, he has his house. Y'all come together, and there you go. You choose where you're gonna spend Christmas, and follow la 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 la, because that's the future in the West. And the reason why that is the future is because there's no rules and regulations. There are no rules and regulations. That's gone. The sexual revolution destroyed all the rules and regulations in dating and mating in America. We in an unregulated system. I want to make that very clear. So I told her, and I'm telling all women 27 and older, stop focusing on looking for a husband. They're not going to be there. They're gone. They're not going to be at the train station. When you arrive at the train station at 27 and older, nobody's going to be there to hold your sign.